Alrighty. Well, here we are. We are gonna get started here in a moment. Just kind of getting set up here. If you're watching the stream, I thank you. I am the Spotted Painter. I'll be working on this figure here. Let's fix the focus here. Second, guys. Alright, that'll work. Hopefully. Okay. Let's figure out. I think we're good to go. Alrighty. So we're going to be working on mainly his skin and his cape today. The cape is where we'll start to really showcase the feathering technique. So we're going to just learn how to do feathering. It's nothing fancy. Really, we're going to use it to smooth out some blends, add in some shadows and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we will end up getting to it, is when we get to that point. So his cape is going to be like a serious, like bold, like strong red. I sketched in the skin, but we're really not going to do a whole lot with the skin until the cape is done, I think. So we will see. So we're gonna bust out some of our bold pyrrole red, right? And what else? We're gonna get some of our burnt red. And I think we're gonna highlight up to like a burnt orange maybe. We'll have to see how that goes. I just haven't really decided. So right now he's got a coat of mahogany on there. It's like a real reddish brown, which is a good base for kind of where we're starting out. We're probably going to put some purple in his shadows. That's kind of where my mind is going with it. We'll just have to see. If you're watching and you're working on something, feel free to drop a link in the chat. Love to know what you're working on. Always fun to see other people. I've got a setup coming soon where I think if it works out the way I want, we're also going to end up with me being able to show a palette cam as well, and hopefully being a little clearer. Like, I don't know, I'm just not really loving the way that some of this is working on camera. So, but we'll get it sorted out. It's a process. So let's start with the cape, with his fantastic cape, and we're just going to kind of do some stippling with our rosemary smush brushes, because they're so good for this kind of cloth feel. And then we might even come back in with what's the word I'm looking for? Some colored pencils, some watercolor pencils, and we might even do some texture with the watercolor pencils. And somebody out there is going, wait, what? Watercolor pencils? That's insane. Why, yes. Yes, it is. As we start, we're just using this to kind of get our overall tone here. It's a way of highlighting up here without the need to take forever on our layers here. And we're hitting the skin some, that's okay. Like I said before, the skin was not really at any kind of special point. If we brush this, I don't want to totally overwrite the skin, but if we hurt the skin right now, it's not a big deal. These little parts I'm just trying to get a little bit at least. They don't have to be critical because we are gonna, unfortunately, we're definitely gonna have to come back in with a smaller, more detailed brush on some of these parts. I kind of hate that because I really don't like using a lot of traditional brushes. They make life harder than it has to be. Alright, so you can see we've shifted that red, but we've still maintained some of the darks and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that same brush, but we're going to add in a little bit of our bold pyrrole red, which is a much more saturated, brighter color. Sneezed. Excuse me. Whew. It was a sneeze and a half, wasn't it? Whew. So we're coming back in and we're just working up. We're going to end it up. We really want kind of a very saturated bold cloak here. Like this should be the kind of cloak where like it makes you stop and go, whoa, like you see this thing across the room, right? Red can be hard to highlight because once you start taking it up too far, it becomes pink. And as somebody pointed out, what's interesting is that pink is really nothing more than light red, right? But for some reason we have a name for pink, but like, why don't we have a name for like light blue? Why is light red its own color and light blue isn't its own color, right? Like, why is that so special? I personally have no idea. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. Like I said, we're just working on highlighting up, but keeping some texture because we're wanting to give it a more natural kind of cloth-like feel rather than just super creamy smooth blends. But the thing is, we're also getting really nice blends. So what I like to do with red a lot of times is I'll go too far up with it. I'll go into that kind of firmly pink range and then I'll glaze back down because I feel like it gives a better red highlight. So at this point I'm just using straight bold pyrrole red, which is a nice saturated color. And I'm being a little more careful where I'm putting it, right? So it needs to go, you know, where he's got highlights and stuff, right? Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some glazes and some other colors and we're gonna feather them in to kind of teach how to do that, right? But for now, he's looking pretty awesome. He obviously has a second gun right here. But the problem is if I work with that gun right now, when I go to paint the face, I'm basically going to be painting, shooting down a tunnel, looking down a tunnel, and that would be unnecessarily hard. Okay, we're starting to get our saturation here, which is what we really want, right? Okay. Get some of these just a little bit, alright? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our burnt orange, which will actually decrease the saturation a little bit, but it is a little bit brighter, and it's just going to shift our tones just a little bit. We want to make sure that we don't cover everything here, or it will go orange on us fast. Like, we're just little pops of it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add some white into our red and highlight a little bit there so we can glaze back down. Okay. And we're just trying to get this red up in a reasonably fast way, and then we'll work on the shadows more. Okay, I think we're done with that brush for now. We're done with little smushy brushes for the moment, I think. What we'll do is we're going to take some, this is like a bright ivory. Taking bright ivory and I'm mixing it with a little bit of my red so that I get a pink. And we're really going to be focusing on edges and kind of more extreme highlights. And it's going to look a little funky. And then when we glaze back over it at the end, it's really all going to tie together and leave us with a pretty cool effect. Because otherwise, I don't know, it's just hard to highlight here. I'm really focusing on trying to catch the edges. You can see I'm still not using just a pointed round because I just, if you've watched my stream at all, you know I kind of hate them until I just have to use them because they're so slow and they leave such an obvious, like, that's a pointed round brush that you're using. It's so hard to kind of hide that. Eventually I will have to, but the goal is to avoid it as long as possible. So we're going to break out our little bitty cat's tongue brush if I can find it. Making sure I keep my brushes in reasonable condition here. Where's my cat's tongue? I thought it was in here. There it is. So this is a cat's tongue brush. So you can see it has advice on stronger highlights helped. Good. I'll tell you right now, that's like the answer for 99% of like what should I do better. Like if you're asking that question, the answer is almost certainly stronger highlights. It's kind of funny. 99% of the people asking that just they need stronger highlights. It's probably the single hardest thing to grow on when you're starting painting is stronger highlights because they're scary. That's the gist of it. Like, and I know that. And people who give that advice know that as well. Like, we all started there where, like, we're highlighting up and we're like, oh, hell, like, this is hard because, you know, it starts looking sometimes a little strange. Like, see, this doesn't look particularly, you know, awesome right now, but when we start glazing back over in it and adding in some shadows, it's really going to come together. Right now I'm making sure that I've just got the highlights where I need. S long rate, yeah, that's exactly part of the same more contrast. And to be honest, that's usually what that means is you need more highlights. Like some artists are hesitant to just come out and say that. I'm not really 100% sure why, but they are. And so we end up in this kind of like, what does more contrast mean? Well, it almost certainly means more, what's the word I'm looking for? More highlights. Well, that's exactly right, Neolithia. You do have to take your work out and look at it. Before I think I'm done with the piece, I take it out in my kitchen and look at it under normal lights. And you do that often enough and you start to kind of understand where you should be as opposed to where you think you are, and you just highlight up a lot brighter and then you take it out under normal lights and you're like, oh my gosh, like now it looks right. But yeah, it's a totally common thing. When I was taking classes from Elizabeth Beckley Bradford and Aaron Lovejoy one time, they had us constantly taking our work away from the bright light and looking at it in room light. I also have switched. I never kind of call a piece done until it's been a couple of days and I have a chance to like look at it under normal light and kind of assess it. Like, am I actually happy with it after a couple of days away? All right, so we've pretty much done what we're gonna do on the red going up. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put some transparent red over it. If you don't have transparent red, red by itself is orange. Ooh, we're gonna do something different. This is a sexy color called, see that? See what it's called? It's called the red. And that's because that's what it is. Like, this is like the most special definition. This is like the most special color red, whatever. Like, it pops across the room. It's crazy. It's very close to the red, bold pyrrole red that we were using earlier, which means it's going to marry everything together nicely. It's not quite the same, but it's extremely close. So what we're going to do, but this is also a super strong pigment, and it's a very transparent color. It's a Chimera color, so we automatically know that there is no other pigment. There's no white in it. It's only one pigment. This is a Chimera color. It's like a small Italian company who makes crazy good sculpts and crazy good paint, and very kind of limited runs of both. So we're just going to start glazing over some of this now, and what it's going to do is it's going to blend in a lot of these highlights, and it's also going to really boost our saturation. We might have to do a couple of passes, but it's really going to kick everything up a notch. And that's okay if we have to do a couple of passes. We can be very selective with where we do passes. I'm in the constant I can do better mindset. I have to cut myself some slack. I keep messing, and I end up making it worse. I think we've all been there, that's for sure. That happens, but it's good that at least you're trying to do better. There's a lot of mini painters who never see what they do as art. All they kind of ever want to do is a process, I say. And so when you're finally starting to get to the point where you can look at it as art and say, you know what, I can do this better, that's a cool mindset to be in. So, enjoy the fact that you kind of reached that you're there. Some of these white highlights I might have taken too far. What we'll do after I've glazed a few layers on this, if we decide that they're a little too pink, I may come back over them with a somewhat transparent orange on the pinkish parts and kind of tone it more towards the orange. I ruined, oh my gosh, when I was learning how to do eyes, I cannot tell you how many eyes I was like, okay, I've got this, and then suddenly I don't got this. Like, it falls apart. When I was trying to figure out how to do eyes, I bought a bunch of heads, and all I did was paint eyes every day for like 2 weeks, faces and eyes rather, and such a huge help. You know what? We're still a little too pink for me, so what we're gonna do is we're just going to take some orange. Chimera makes an orange that's very transparent that I like a lot. It's also a pretty bold color. It's high saturation. Ooh. That dropped off. Sorry, I keep models up. Oh, good. Okay. This is labeled orange. Wash method for eyes. If you have well sculpted eyes, like that they have actual eye sockets, maybe this is what you're talking about, I don't know. If they have actual eye sockets and they're well sculpted, you can paint the area kind of white, put a black stripe, and then wash the area, and it's going to make a nice outline around the eye, and then you can kind of cut the flesh in. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. Get the black lining, and yeah. So yeah, if you kind of reverse that though, and do the white, the black, and then the wash, what that does is when your wash is in there, just take your brush and kind of pick it up right off the surface of the eyeball so that it doesn't tint the actual eyeball too much. And then just cut your flesh in around where the wash outlined. So I can probably show that. So we'll do that here in a bit. Alright, so I put some orange down. And we're just going to make a nice glaze out of our orange here, because these are staying just a little too pink. Yeah, I'll see. So all we're doing, this is just an orange glaze, and we're dragging this from our shadows to our highlights. That's kind of important. If we're going to end up with the most amount of glaze and the fade direction in the direction we kind of go, right? So if we glaze, sorry, I'm having to kind of poke around and look. My camera has ended up in the exact place where the chat is talking. Alrighty, so we're getting there here. Alright. So now what we want to do here, we want to add some shadows here to make this better. So we're going to use some of our original mahogany, I think, and this is where we feather it in. Okay. So when we feather it in, what happens is we're going to take it right down here and we just lay some down in there. We clean off our brush and then we find the line and we just take it and we move that line wherever the line of paint that we created. So if we're down here, right, you see we've got that kind of line now. We take a wet brush and we sneak up on it and we just move that line. Okay, and it just fades away. Fades away. Okay. So undo this and we're just going to we're just working in some shadows here. Red, one of the really important things for red is the shadows. Like if you don't have deep enough shadows on red, that's where it falls apart. I'd say red is as much about shadows as about highlights, which is not normal. Most colors, I feel like you really need to make sure that you highlight them correctly, and I feel like red is almost the opposite, where you're better off making sure that you really so see, we've got that line right in there. this line right here, and we're just going to take our brush and wedges. A real soft touch. And now we've got a nice fade in there. Right? So you put wherever you want the most, and then you just sneak up on that line. We're just causing it to fade away. Okay. We are going to start throwing in some other tones, I think. And we're going to throw some purple in here. I think it'll look good with some purple. When you start throwing in other tones, you got to start being real careful with the other tones. You don't want it to go too much, right? So we're going to take this purple and we're going to see if we can't sneak it in here. The worst that can happen at this point is, as long as we stay kind of in this same family, then the worst that kind of happens is that we just lay some red over it. So I'm kind of working some purple in some of the shadows here. This is not a real dark purple. It's actually a fairly mid-tone purple. Pretty pastel purple. And it's just going to make our shadows way more interesting. I think it's because red is a color that's strong. It's too vibrant, it sucks up all the attention. You need good shadows to even out. I'd say that's true. We're just trying to, I don't think I liked that right there. That was not something that I was fond of. So we're just gonna even that out a little bit. Come back in with some of the brown here. Still want some of that purple in there though. Yeah, there we go. What we're doing with this purple is we're trying to create visual interest. As we look around the model, we want there to be more to look at than just smooth blends, right? So we're just trying to get a little bit of some fun into these shadows, right? Okay. The reason that we can get away with a lighter color here in the shadows and it doesn't look just bananas is because it has a contrasting color in it. So instead of strictly contrasting by value, because it's got a little bit of blue in it, right? That's how you get purple. Because it's got a little bit of blue in it, we create some contrast in our tone as well. In our might be a little too purpley there. I think it'll dry a lot. How's it looking? Do we like the red? Is it a sexy red? I'm liking it so far. What we need to do though is we need to put in some texture. He is overall way too smooth. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna totally cheat. We're gonna use a colored pencil. I'm gonna get it good and sharp though. Oh, sorry, I'm sharpening a pencil. It might cause the camera to wobble for a second. Alright, this is good. This is sharp enough. And all we're going to start doing is we're just going to start making little hash marks. And we're just going to start giving him some texture. It's going to be real subtle. The nice thing about colored pencils, this is a watercolor pencil, is that if you don't like it, it literally will just wipe off with water. The other thing that you can actually do is we can use it to catch some of our highlights back. So, you know, if we want to run that pencil along there, we can do that, you know, we can do that. Right? Right? Thank you. Like, I swear though, I think I'm the only person using colored pencils. But it's just like, look at how easy it is to work with though. And then here's some other cool things. So let's say, you know, we can even, let's say we wanted to take something up here and we wanted it to be a little more yellow, right? So what we can do, because they're water activated, first of all, that alone doesn't look too bad. But because they're watercolor pencils, we take a wet brush and it just blends right in, and it's just a little bit of a tone then. It's real subtle then. And we can get away with it then. All we're trying to do is cheat and add some easy texture in here. And then after we do the colored pencils, we do want to seal them. We do want to make sure that we put some sealer over it because they're water activated. They will very obviously reactivate. Okay, I don't like some of this down here. So see, I didn't like some of the marks I made, so all I did was take a brush and just kind of wipe them off. And you can kind of fade them out with a brush if you want. So like right here, there's some hash marks up here, but they go a little too far, so I'm just going to take a wet brush. And if I stroke this way, it's just going to fade them away. Right? Alright. I think I'm overall happy with his cloak here. I think it's kind of the direction I wanted to go. Right? I think I can do lots more. We can always take it more, but for this model, for right now, I think that's kind of the direction that I wanted to go. We've got some blue. See, that purple really comes off as blue under there, but it looks like such a good shadow, doesn't it? Like, doesn't these blue shadows like really, like, I'm telling you, it kicks it up. It really kicks it up a notch. Now, what we want to do next, since we use the colored pencils and we don't want them to reactivate, we are going to take some of this. This is the best stuff to seal it with. So we're just going to take this and we're just going to give this thing a real light coating. Okay. And that's going to keep it intact. Yep. So we kept a little bit of our, yep. So we're good there. If you put this on too much or too fast, it'll make it run, so you got to be real careful. The other thing you can do is you can actually, take these watercolor pencils and like pre-tone areas. So like, let's say I have a whole set, they're just not out. I keep these. What's this? Is this blue? This is like a Prussian blue, indigo. You know, if we wanted to, we could have taken this color and just colored in this area with a colored pencil. And then when we went red over this area, the colored pencil would have reactivated and it would have automatically started to tone that area and kind of almost wet blended that area for us just automatically. And that would be super cool. So that's a trick I do sometimes. So at this point, what we're going to do though, I am going to take the airbrush just a little bit. I want to make sure that I've got things where I want them. And a lot of times it's just easiest for me with the airbrush. So we're just going to take the airbrush and hit it with the red one a few places. Make sure we're where we want. And then I'll call the red done and we'll move on to the skin. And the skin won't take hardly anything. I see a bunch of white in my cup of my airbrush and it's scaring me because like I don't remember using a bunch of white in this airbrush. There is so much easier ways to blend, guys, than doing traditional layering. Like there's just so many easier ways to blend, like stippling and then glaze over the stipple, which is a lot of what we just did. You know, the pencils, there's just all sorts of different ways to do this. All right, let's see if we're where I want. And way too high of pressure. Good gracious. It was like cranked way up on pressure. There we go. All right, so yeah, so all I'm gonna do now, I'm just doing little bitty sprays from the top. Yeah, there we go. Just to make sure we're kind of alrighty. And now we have our red cloak, and it's very clearly red, but we've got some nice interesting shadows, and it's like super saturated, right? There we go. So yeah, piece of cake on the red. All right, let's clean out the airbrush real quick, and then let's do some skin. Some skin. What's the hardest color for you guys to work with? What's the color if you've got a paint that your soul cries a little bit? Cleaning out the airbrush. Cleaning out the airbrush. I am almost out of airbrush cleaner, guys. I should have really thought about the fact that I was about to use my airbrush before I checked on airbrush cleaner. White sucks. I think white's the worst, probably. I don't know. I did white the other day on stream, and I don't know. My problem is no matter what I do with white, it always looks like whatever color I started with. I don't know. What I need to do next time, and this is one of those things where you know it, but at the same time, like, don't do it for some reason. White's a lot easier for me if I start with white and shade down instead of start at a different color and work up. And I should have done that before. I don't know why I didn't the other day on stream. was feeling brave, I guess. Because I don't know, no matter what I do, like that piece the other day, like no matter how much like I cover with white, it still feels blue to me. And I really want it to feel white. So yeah, white sucks. I think black is the second worst. And I think white and black suck. And then after that, I think purple. I don't know, whenever I highlight purple, it gets pastel so quickly. I don't like working with purple. Let's put our red shades up for now. We've already got plenty on the palette in case we want to do something. I may come, that red on the cloak is the kind of thing where we'll let it sit for a couple of days before we kind of call it done, so to speak. And I can decide whether or not I'm really happy with that or whether we want to go a different direction. I may darken some places up and touch up a few spots, but I think overall, it screams red. Well, that's probably because you're probably trying to shade it too stark. Like you've got to shade white very subtly. Like white, if you're going for like a warm white, like warm white shade is only like this dark. Like it's not dark at all. Like to put that in context, where's my white? Where is my white? My white is hiding, y'all. That's gray. You're not white. You tricky thing. Somebody come steal my white. Did you guys steal my white? I had it out earlier. Is this white? No, that's ivory. That's gray. That sucks. Oh, there it is. Let's say, I can't imagine somebody stole my white. Come on. So to put it in perspective, like I would not shade white much lower than this, and a lot of people are trying to shade white with something like, like this. Okay. Or if you're trying to like, what should I call it? Do like washes and stuff. Oh, I almost knocked a glass over. If you're trying to do it with something like this. Like that's not what you want to do. There is a decent whitewash called Parchment from Secret Weapon. It's decent, Yeah, I would suggest you try it the other way around. Like, paint everything white and then glaze the shadows in. The trick with white and the trick with black is a huge portion of the area needs to actually stay white and black. Okay, let's figure out where we're going next. Where should we go? I think we're gonna do the skin. I'm doing like an olive skin on this guy. So I'm gonna do the olive skin tone from Reaper. Let's go ahead, let's do... You end up with a skeleton look? Yeah, it's easy to do. Yeah, blues end up with a cool... Basically you can do cool white or you can do warm white. The trick, like I said, is just starting high enough. If you're gonna start in the shadows, like just start high enough. Don't start from black, certainly not dark brown. Start from a pretty light tan and then work your way up. Am I gonna have to use I think I'm gonna have to use my actual pointed round brushes. That's a shame. Alright. Let's kind of... We're just gonna be sketching. The way that I do skin is I kind of sketch it in and then just kind of refine and refine and refine. Like so. I'm working with my mid-tone right now. I hate starting skin from a shadow, because if you start skin from your darkest color, like, it becomes terrifying to work up to your brightest color, right? Because skin should be pretty bright, and the majority of your skin should be mid-tone, okay? But it's very terrifying to start with, you know, a dark brown or, you know, a dark red or something like that, and end up going to, you know, what's basically bright ivory. You know, you kind of lose your nerve, so to speak. So I really like just starting out brighter so that I've got a more fighting chance. I'm not being real careful yet. We're just trying to work on the overall tones. He doesn't have a lot of skin, which is nice. The skin shouldn't take too long. So I've gotten most of my mid-tone on, so I'm just going to start throwing some of my shadow in there. It's not a real dark shadow. We're just going to start hitting some of the places that we know, like behind the head here, stuff like this. I had already kind of zenithal painted the skin with an airbrush and just threw a wash on it just to help me see everything. And we might even rewash the skin at some point, because some models washing the skin is a good idea. Some models not. It just really depends. I'm not a huge wash person, but they have their places. And anytime, like if a pro tells you that they never use washes, I don't know. They might not use commercial washes, but washing as a technique, most pros in some form or fashion use. Alright, we threw in some shadows. We're starting to kind of see the skin, so we're going to throw in our first highlight. Highlights on skin are more important than going real dark on shadows. You do not want to go dark on shadows on skin. All I'm doing here is just starting to pick out the very obviously raised surfaces here. It will definitely be in highlight, right? And this is with the olive highlight. So the olive skin tone on this doesn't have a lot of red in it. And that's one reason I picked for this, is because it should contrast nicely with his well, I missed his chest, didn't I? Got some red on there. The olive skin tone has a lot of green in it for a skin tone. It's olive, you know, which means it should provide a nice contrast. And this guy has such a good face. Like, the sculpt on this face is phenomenal. Good lord. Pain in the butt to paint because of his arms, but the actual sculpt is fantastic. So I'm just going to work on the face here for a few minutes. Just kind of sketching in volumes. Think more in terms of volumes overall, and your life will get easier. Like, if you just start picturing the head as a sphere and paint it as a sphere first. Then start picturing individual areas, you know, more is what they are, but you know, break down your different areas into their geometries. You know, we're not going to add a lot of red in his skin because there's so much red on the model. Most of the time with skins, we tend to go very red. We are going to add just a little bit of the mahogany into his darkest shadows, so it will have a little bit of red, but not a lot. We're just coming through and we're slowly kind of working on things here. I'm just going through and working on his skin. He's got such well-defined everything that it's going to be really easy to paint this guy. Like some models, when stuff just isn't well-defined, I find it stressful to paint because I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm painting. Like, I don't know what this bitty doodah is, right? We're going to throw down some pale yellow. Right? Pale yellow. This is what our highlight on the skin, our highest highlight. We're going to start mixing that in because the highlight, so we've pretty much already hit our highlight for what the Reaper Triad is. It's a little brighter, but it's not nearly bright enough. Like, the Reaper Triads are super fantastic starting points, right? But they are not ending points. They don't go dark enough and they don't go light enough. But the advantage is usually all you've got to do is work through them in the middle and then add a little bit of, you know, maybe a bright ivory or a bright yellow on the upside, and then most of the time with skin, all you'd want to be doing is adding, you know, maybe in the shadows some mix in some like burnt red or some mahogany into your Reaper skin tone shadows. And if you did that, you'd have pretty good skin tones. Okay. But by themselves, they're not quite contrasty enough. Even though you may look at it when you're painting and think, I cannot paint higher contrast than that. The reality is, you need to. Okay. Painting high contrast can be scary, but worth it. If you missed when I first got on, getting a different camera. This is a new camera, but I don't like it. It has some really annoying things about it. It doesn't save most of my settings between when I turn it on and off, which that alone is just super annoying, and is just, I looked it up, it's just a part of the camera. So between that and it just, I don't quite have enough manual control. I'm getting a different camera, and it's going to be a 4K camera, but you can't twitch in 4K, but what it means is I can actually set the camera, I can do a really cool trick. I can get the camera actually to look at my entire desk and then break it up into different pretend camera shots. So I can have one camera shot that's here, and then up in this corner right here, or maybe this one, or down one of these other corners, what we'll do is it'll be a palette camera shot, but it'll be from the actual same camera. It'll just be cut a different way. It's gonna be really neat. I'm excited for it. When you're doing your skin, if you find yourself highlighting and your highlights have become too stark, right? That they don't blend well together, right? All you need to do if that happens is take your midtone and just glaze it over. I don't recommend glazing your highlight color over, like any of your highlight colors, because they tend to be much more opaque, and you're just going to lose everything almost instantly, right? So the other cheat, ooh, maybe I should do this. I'm going to totally cheat, you guys. I'll show you another cheat. If you want to cheat for skin, I've got a cheat for skin. We're going to go super bright here on the skin. Right? Am I on camera? I am. Okay. That's a little too much. Got a little clown like there. We do need to highlight his upper. He's got teeny tiny eyes though. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do about his eyes. I'm going to have to figure that out. His eyes aren't happening on camera, I'll tell you that. I got no chance. Heck, I could paint those eyes on camera. Okay, so he's looking really super contrasty, right? Like his face is like popping and some muscles are popping. Almost too much so, right? Like, just a second. I'll finish up. Okay. So he's looking too stark, right? So there's this amazing stuff. Is this it? Oh. It's transparent flesh from Watercolors, and it's basically the same stuff as the Pro Acrylic transparent line, only it's a flesh color. It's a pretty neutral flesh color, right? Fixing mistakes. The easiest thing to do there is just not to make them. I actually had a mentor of mine. He's like, how do you paint faster? Don't make mistakes. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate that. Apparently that was told to him though. Well, I'll tell you what, S. Longberry, if you send me some of what you think. So all we're going to do is just start glazing this transparent flesh over, and it's going to keep most of our flesh tone. It's a little more red than ours, but that's okay. If we shift this guy a little bit, it's worth teaching. If you send me some mistakes that you would like to know how to correct, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about what to do about those. So all we're doing is we're just glazing this transparent flesh over this. Like I said, it shifted us a little bit, but that's okay. Teaching moments work. And so what it's going to do, it's going to marry our tones together a lot. You could do this if you make a very thin glaze of your midtone. You could do the same kind of thing. I just wanted to show you, I really like that transparent blush. If I'm doing a big model, what I'll do is I'll over highlight everything so that I get nice highlights, and then I'll spray transparent blush over the area and just knock it back down. Alright, so you can see that knocked it Agrax Earthshade. So the only thing I'm going to caution you about Agrax Earthshade is that the tones that it produces in skin are not very, what I would say is kind of natural tones. Like it makes for extremely dirty skin. It doesn't look very natural in a lot of skin tones. I'm just coming back in and shading a little bit here. So yeah, I would just caution you that Agrax is maybe not your greatest skin wash. Not bad, but I would consider glazing your midtone before. So see how we got there? See, after we glazed all that, we've still got some highlights. They still pop, but they're not like, oh my gosh, what is going on? We got a little too bright there. So what we're going to do is we're going to work up a few places back with our original tones here. And then we're going to call the skin done before too much longer. Probably, we'll see. This is one of these figures where I will work on it a little all weekend until I'm kind of satisfied with it. I'm just coming back in and hitting some of our highlight areas again here. Like I said, he's got such a great face. It's just like down the barrel of the thing, so it's like super easy. Yeah, that camera picks up that yellow way more than real life. Like, oh, there's a bug on my neck. Like, that yellow is not nearly that prevalent in real life, but like on camera, that yellow is like kablam, right? Like, we're just kind of going back and making sure that we're where we want to be. We're just about there, I think. Yeah, take a look. I don't know if he even has like eye sockets. Oh my gosh, he does. Those are the world's small. I don't know if I've ever seen eyes this small, guys. Ah! Like, I really don't know if I've ever seen eyes this small. Like, this is like seriously intimidatingly small. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. Like, good gracious. Like, I feel like if you're gonna paint eyes, like if you're gonna sculpt eyes rather, like, can we not make them at least somewhat paintable? Can we please? Alright. When doing this skin tone, I like purples instead of magentas. in my shadows. We're gonna go with kind of a dark purple. I think we're gonna do a dark purple wash though, and like we're not gonna actually wash it. We're just gonna use it as a glaze though. So we're gonna take like some Juicy Violet. Yeah, yeah. So Thursday dedicated to various skin tones. Yeah, we could try that. That's not bad. The skin tone that looks insane, but actually, like if you were watching the speed painting that turned not into that much speed paint, if you were watching that one, the one that like looks insane for colors but like works so well for some reason is the bright skin. Like these colors just look bananas for skin, but they work so well. Like it just produces this really like youthful. That's the color that you want to think is. It's very youthful. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our Juicy Violet and we're going to mix, I think we're going to mix a little bit of our shadow tone into it. Because I'm afraid if I go straight with it, it's going to be super intense and I don't want that. We're going to mix about 50-50 and we're just going to treat it as kind of a glaze. And we're just going to glaze in some of these darker places. See how it does. I don't know. We'll see. Skin changes as you do it should mostly be pretty subtle. Like you don't want to do something and be like, whoa. Right? Skin is one of the harder things to paint for most people. We're going to let that wash do a little more of its thing here. We've got such well-defined muscles here, I think we can get away with it. Okay. I think we're going to leave the skin there for now, guys. We'll come back to it. I'm not entirely happy with it. I keep saying that, and then I'm like, I should just do one more highlight. It's because this face has so much character, but I've realized it has some weird, because he has this kind of sneer, it has some lines that I'm not used to on it. So painting it is posing a little bit of a challenge. That's okay. We're going to leave it alone for now. After we fix this. Let's go ahead and knock out something like his pants, maybe. Let's do that. We'll knock out his pants and we'll probably call it a night. We're just going to do the pants in some real basic leathery kind of colors. Start off with a dark umber. And then we'll work our way up to, let's work our way up to a golden yellow. And then I've already got it on the palette. We're going to mix in some bright ivory with the golden yellow probably. I think that's the route that we'll go. We'll see. Everything's kind of by ear, by sight. So the red on this model is so intense. We want to avoid adding another color of high saturation because there's really nothing else on this model that cries out like showcase me. The guns maybe. We could do the guns. We could have a pop of a color on the guns. but like definitely don't give him like bright blue pants or bright blue boots or something like that. Like, please don't do that. You could do, if you decided not to make his cape kind of the focal point, it was requested that the cape be the focal point though. This is commission. If the cape wasn't the focal point, what I would probably do is have made the cape like probably brown leather here with like a cream um, lining inside, and then done striped pants and kind of given that, because he's got these really great lines on his pants that would have made doing striped pants super easy. But I can't really do striped pants without introducing some pretty significant challenges to like competing with the existing. A little bit of wet blending here. I'm just putting the colors on wet, letting them kind of marry up a little bit here. The trick is knowing when you can get away with it. Like when it's fully wet, you can do it. When it's like starting to dry but not totally dry, that's what we call the danger zone. So what's going to happen then if you do it, it's going to start to pull up, right? The paint, when it's in that kind of not quite dry but not quite wet phase, is when we introduce texture by accident, not the good kind of texture. But if we're giving him leathery type pants, we do want some texture. So we're going to let that dry. Then we're going to do a little stabby stab with one of our smush brushes here. It's got a lot of red in it though. I guess I should clean it. Yeah, we can use this stuff. It's not dried in. We're going to use our it's the Gentastics Drunken Brush Goop from Monument Hobbies. Monument Hobbies is a fantastic little paint company, a hobby company now. They sell all sorts of stuff. They sell brushes, they sell paint. I'm getting a coupon code to get stuff from there. You've probably seen like almost every Twitch person these days has a coupon code for Monument. Like everybody's jumped on the bandwagon because the Monument paints are so good. I will have you know, I was using the Monument paints way before. I'm definitely not everybody, but a lot of the people out there like are recent converts. Like they've been good for a long time now, year and a half, something like that. I guess long is relevant, right? That's not taking anything away from people. I'm just like, I would tell people, I'm like, you gotta try out these kind of Monument paints, and they're like, what are those? So you can see we can get just that real soft kind of almost supple leather look with these brushes. So that was the golden yellow. We're going to mix in a little bit of the bright ivory into that. And we're just going to focus it on the knees like he's wearing them. And then we're going to, on some of these creases here, it's a real light touch. I mean, it's super light. And we're just, there we go. Now he's got these kind of faded leathery brown pants, right? Isn't that easy? The only thing we're going to do is we're going to reinforce the shadows a little bit. They need some love. We're going to take some of our purple. We're going to, a little red, I don't know. Well, let's do mahogany and purple. And we're just going to just make them a little bit more interesting here. Let's just take some of our purple here. And we're just trying to create some environment. So the purple creates that visual interest where the piece is not just one series of monochromatic tones, meaning we just step up through a series of tones, because honestly that's super boring. I'm gonna take these creases under here and just give them, what's gonna be in shadow, this is a little bit of the mahogany. That's gonna help do that. We're gonna do that over here. We're just kind of reinforcing things. There's a little line here. I'm just going to feather that out. There we go. Anytime we use this style of brush, we're almost certainly going to be feathering out some of our things because it creates a very hard line, right? Okay. So we got pants. The skin is you know, there. That brush is literally called, check this out. You see that? Smushing brush. But so I can't find a good one in this size, which I've come to like. But for anything larger than this, you can really use just a makeup brush for the larger stuff. This is an e.l.f. Eye Crease Brush. Eye Crease Brush. There we go. It's trying too hard. Anyway, e.l.f. Eye Crease Brush. I like the smush brushes better, but these are good. Artist Opus has a series of brushes that are similar. Okay, if you saw me post the other day about there on Facebook, somebody may have seen there exists a brush so bad that it scratches paint off the model. Here's what it is. This is a Royal and Nickel, what they call dry brushing brush, and it looks very close to this kind of thing, right? Same kind of concept, a little bigger, right? They come in a whole big set like this, right? And Michigan Toy Company, which is usually a very good supplier of things, put out a whole post about how awesome these were and how competitively priced compared to the Artist Opus Series D. So I got super excited. I ordered a set. These things are terrible. Like this, like I don't know how to display it on camera, but like it's so stiff. Like this is like almost like sandpaper. This is super soft, and the makeup brushes are super soft when they're properly cleaned and new. Super soft. This is like super scratchy. Like these are so terrible. And yeah, at first they were like, "We'll give you your money back," and I was like, "Great, I'll gladly take a refund." And then they disappeared. So he's like, "They're really not that bad." I was like, "They really are. They literally scratched the paint off of a model." Like, yeah. So they're definitely not good. Boots? We can knock out the boots. I'm getting a little tired. I don't know. You know what? I think we're gonna call it a day. I think I'm gonna. I got some work I have to do yet tonight, so I think we're gonna call it a day. So feathering is where you put down a line of something, and then you immediately kind of rinse your brush off or use another brush and grab some water and kind of ease that line. Okay. Alrighty, guys. That's all she wrote. Questions, comments, anything at all. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with me. Always nice to have somebody actually talking and asking questions. Like the couple of streams that I've done where like nobody came and I'm like talking for 2 hours to myself, like la-di-da-di-da. So, alrighty. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.